Okay, taking a break from the motor for a minute. I am also redoing the floor on the boat. I don't know if I mentioned that or did any other videos yet, so basically what I've done to this point is pretty well, ridiculous. Cut the whole original floor out of the boat, right down to the fiberglass, and now I am doing a little bit of an unorthodox rebuild. Actually left some of the original floor in the back that isn't really anything that people are walking on. I just didn't feel like doing it. So I left as much of the original fiberglass and wood that I could in that wasn't rotten out. Basically all along the edges is where I had my structural points at. So I am going to, or rather I did, build this framework. So now I actually have a frame in here as opposed to just wood and fiberglass. Again, I don't know how common of a setup this is, but it's the way I decided to do it. The goal is to, well, I'm going to put some foam back in, right? So I need, the foam back in there, at least some amount to provide flotation and some extra structural durability. But yeah, my goal is to actually build a couple of hatches in, so I have a little extra storage. And I put in some reinforced wood, or some reinforced points for my seat posts, because they were really flexing with just going into the floor. So that's on each side. Obviously these aren't the original style seats for this boat. This boat's not supposed to have seat posts, but I kind of like the setup. It's going to give me a little more flexibility and room on the boat. And then yeah, I'm going to build a whole hatch here for the access to the hull, where water skis and whatnot would go. And my goal is to actually build everything in panels. So ultimate goal is to make everything serviceable, right? I want to be able to take this thing apart again, do work to it, do upgrades, clean it, make changes, whatever I need to do. I want to be able to do that without having to cut fiberglass out again. So everything in here will be in panels. I think I'm just going to do some pressure treated plywood with some carpet on top. Not the most weather resistant thing, but again, if it only takes me 10 minutes to replace a panel as opposed to 6 months like this project's been taking me, I'm okay with it. I'd rather use a little cheaper setup material and operate a little better, or be a little more serviceable. So that's the goal, that's where I'm at. So right now I've got the whole framework done. I'm going to finish off the bow, I believe today is the goal. So there will be another hatch right here. So I'm going to have 2 accesses to this lower section. I'll have a hatch in the front and then a much bigger piece in the back. So again, trying to optimize my storage, and I'll build seating back in here. And all below the seating will be storage. And then I'm going to probably use most of the original back piece because it's already cut and it's already in place. And I'll just have to make some adjustments because I'm technically raising the floor up about a ½ inch overall, which was not ideal. Honestly, when I first started this project, I wanted to go down with the floor and make it lower, but it's a lot of extra work to do something like that. So I am taking a slightly easier way out, but it should still be fairly effective. So yeah, that's it. And again, I have no idea if framing out a boat like this is the proper way to do something. Clearly there was no framework in here to begin with, so I guess I'm probably adding some additional weight in the framing, but I'm not going to use nearly as much foam. I think there's probably some legal requirements to putting foam back in boats that I should be following, but I'm probably not going to. Again, I'll be putting some back in, but my ultimate goal rather is to leave foam out of this corner area and actually build a channel in there, so when water does get onto the floor and soak through, it actually has a way to escape, similar to the channel that's underneath this hull section already. So that's kind of the goal. I think it'll work. I'm about to cut board for the bow. Basically, it's a little tricky, right? Because you got to do this angle all the way up. So, and I'm kind of making it a little loose because I'm probably gonna wrap it in carpet, you know, wrap around to the bottom. So I'm trying not to make it super tight to the edges. But basically, I got my measurement across the bottom. The hard part is I got to work around my my fuel lines. So my fuel lines are actually going to come down and through this. So this will be cut out. And then this is actually a piece I've already installed underneath. That way I didn't have to work around the fuel lines. You know, put a board over them or slide it in or something. So this piece is already in there as its own separate piece. And then this whole thing will be an additional piece, and this will be a cutout for the hose. So what I basically did is in the boat I marked the center line, and then on this I marked the center line, and from there more or less I can just measure my distance to the ends or the edges of the boat at different points, right? So this one was kind of easier for me because I already knew I needed to cut this distance out, which was 10 inches. So measure 10 up, and I know my distance from center line over, and then I went 16, it's actually 16 from the top, measure my distance over to that point, then I went 8 from the top, measure my distance over to that point, repeated that on both sides. So gives me a pretty rough outline of what the shape of the bow should kind of be. Again, I'm probably gonna cut it a little big, you know, I'll stay the outside of the line, cut it a little big, and then I can always trim back down if I need to. Alright, quick update on the boat floor. I got the bow piece all cut out, probably the most intricate piece I've had to cut so far. Got the fuel line and vent hose cut out here. That all kind of rides over here, the fuel line and hoses and stuff. I got the wiring harness hole to come down through the console and underneath to go to the fuel sending unit, so I'll be able to get my my fuel volume and whatnot. And then right now I've just centered out the board, and I'm cutting out a hole in here to be able to put in my new access cover, or my new hatch. So that's going to sit on there, in there. This will mount in place, get it locked. And then ideally, if I made all my measurements correctly, that'll fit right in that pocket there and be pretty well supported. I could stand on either one of those 1x1 or 2x2s, whatever they are. And they're pretty solid, so I think having the hatch in the middle there, that's going to be a pretty strong product there. You can see the hoses, and I don't have the harness hanging down anymore, but it's sitting tucked up in there. So yeah, I'll try to grab a quick picture or two once it's in, see what it looks like. All right, do a quick recap of the floor today. So, got the bow floor cut, got the got my hatch set up in there. It's gonna be nice, having that front access. I'm probably gonna leave it open between the front and the back there, and but this will just be a nicer access. I hope I can keep my anchor down there on top of stuff. A couple other things. Trying to add more storage to the boat. So it was pretty shy on it before. All the way around here will be storage under the cushions too. So I basically got all of this. So I did the framework over the last couple weeks, and now I'm just cutting the plywood into place. The goal is to do it in sections, which I've been doing, so I don't have to tear up entire pieces if I ever gotta get under there and do any work or cleaning or whatever it might be. I'll be able to take this up in pieces. I'm even gonna carpet the pieces individually. so that way it's just easy access. Plan on putting a hatch on each side here as well. It's not going to be the nicest looking storage, but it'll be functional, so I'll have hatches and get direct access down into there. You know, don't want to put anything probably too important, but I think they make some kind of nets that you can install into the hatches, so that way I can put stuff in there and not have it go flying around. Again, nothing fancy, just nice to have an extra spot for some things. So yeah, I gotta put in that piece of wood, and it's kind of tough to tell, but there's actually a difference here. Basically, I didn't want to make this piece come all the way to the end because there's just barely enough room to squeeze the motor in and out how it sits right now, and since I'm raising the floor about a ½ inch, I did not want to make it even harder to get the motor in and out. So there's just going to be a little piece of I'll probably go with some kind of PVC board or something there, just to fill that difference in that gap, and yeah, the rest will just be plywood. So I'll carpet the individual pieces. It should look good. I'll have some hatches in there, and then I still got to drill in. So I'm putting in seat mount posts into the floor, and I've already measured them out to line up with these braces. So this will go right there where the braces are. So this thing should be nice and sturdy. So I gotta figure out exactly what I want those yet and install them. I had these in in the old floor, and I lined them up centered on the consoles, and that was too tight to the sidewall, so I'm just gonna be bumping them out over to the side. So this should work out pretty well, I think. Then I'll have one on each side, and then this whole thing is just gonna be an access cover that I can lift in and out. Just have some kind of latch set up for an entire cover mounted on there. So that's the goal. But yeah, so far coming along pretty good. I'll call it for today though.